So my father died from Parkinson's disease, and I got to see all of that disease up close, personal, every aspect. And then later, with the human genetics, we now realize there are some genes whose mutation is causative of disease, but even more interestingly and importantly, there are genes both in Parkinson's and in Alzheimer's, which if you just express higher levels of them, you will get the disease. The normal gene can cause the disease if it's expressed at too high a level. And that's true for one gene, alpha-synuclein. That's true in Parkinson's. And alpha-synuclein misaccumulates in many Parkinson's patients. So a reasonable strategy, a reasoned strategy today is, why don't you just suppress the synthesis of alpha-synuclein? And that strategy I predict will go to human trial late this year, 2018, or early in 2019. So what motivated us to begin a search to use designer DNA drugs to see if we could suppress the genes that are causative or contributory to human neurodegenerative disease? In part, we started because a local neurologist was just adamant that we should do it. I mean, he was super adamant. Actually, we thought that the approach, everyone thought that the approach would not work, that these drugs would not get into cells, that we could not deliver them broadly throughout the nervous system, and therefore the strategy probably would fail. And we tried it anyway. And that was the breakthrough, because as soon as we tried it, we realized it does work, even though there's no known pathway for uptake by cells of the kinds of drugs that we're using. They're too large and very heavily charged, and they should not be taken up by cells. So you could say that the initial breakthrough was ignoring what everybody else said would happen and just doing it. And as soon as we did it, we realized that every textbook, pharmacology textbook, cell biology textbook, said these kinds of molecules cannot be taken up effectively by cells. But we learned very quickly that the cells of the nervous system, the mammalian nervous system, did not read the textbook, and that almost all of them do effectively take these drugs up. And then even more so, that once they're taken up, these modified DNAs, that they have very long periods of working. A conventional drug like aspirin, it works for about 3 or 4 hours. But these designer DNA drugs, with their modifications, they work for 3 or 4 months after injection. So we get very long periods of efficacy, and that enabled their use as the basis of a therapy for human neurologic disease, because we're only going to dose patients 3 or 4 times a year. I admit that I am an optimist in general, and there are many things that are really disappointing, discouraging in world politics today, in many things in the world today, and yet I'm still an optimist. And having said that, I think there's every reason for optimism that in the lifetime of today's high school and college student, that we're going to see therapies that are effective for the major neurodegenerative diseases. They're going to come too slow, but they're going to come. One possibility is the gene silencing approaches that we have pioneered. There'll be other gene silencing approaches that others pioneer, and there'll be gene editing approaches to correct mistakes or to inactivate bad genes. They are absolutely going to happen. I can see them happening in a 10 to 20 year time frame, and that if I leave the young folks a lesson, it's that what we know is a very small fraction of what there is to be known. Some things we think we know are wrong, and so just try it. Just do it. Choose a goal and have perseverance. In science, I think that's the most important lesson, perseverance. Being smart, that's really good. It's not enough. Being technically good, yeah, that's nice. That's important. But persistence is the most important characteristic.